Guys, just doing a quick video. I'm doing the back of this is an Isuzu 250 tipper, and I had to do a roadworthy to get it registered. It's been off the road for a few years, and I was just doing the Shackle Bushes, which are these rubber things. They have a metal sleeve that goes inside, and the one I'm doing at the moment is the rear shackle bush for the connection to the chassis. So you can see up here you've got all the leaves under there for the suspension, so there's all the suspension leaf, and up here you've got a shackle bush. They just basically take a lot of shock out of the suspension, so you see the leaves going down there for the suspension for the truck. It has a plate which goes on there, and then a bolt on there to hold all the shackle bushes in. So it's basically rubber, a metal sleeve goes through the middle, and these rubber things, it takes two, one each side. Now this is extremely, it's basically just hard to do. To get these rubbers in is near bloody impossible. So what I devised today, after not being able to just push them in and hammer them in or anything, was went up to the hardware shop and I just bought a piece of threaded rod, $4 for a bit of threaded rod. I got a couple of washers. Let's see if I can find one. A couple of washers, 4 nuts, and as you can see here, it's really tight. Let's get that off. There's a nut on there and a washer on there. A washer on there and 2 nuts on there, so it doesn't spin, so the nut doesn't spin off. I tighten up this nut and it pushes everything in under extreme pressure. Like, it's very hard now to screw that in. This one's actually done. I probably should have showed you beforehand. I can show you one of the front bushes, because the front shackle bushes need doing on this truck as well. So you can basically see that's what it all looks like, and extreme pressure to get that in. The rubber itself is hard to get in. They're oversized, and obviously this is truck suspension, so it's pretty heavy duty stuff compared to a car. And getting these in was giving me a headache, so I sat down, had a cup of tea, and thought about it for 5 minutes, and came up with getting a bit of threaded rod, and it worked perfectly. When I started, the washer and nut was out here on both sides, because you do them both at the same time. So there's a rubber shackle goes in there, a rubber shackle goes in this side, then a metal sleeve goes through the middle of it, both sides, and then I basically, that was all hanging out to here, and so I started the nut here and wound it in, and it pulled both sides in together. Did a perfect job, and again under extreme pressure. Now, always safety. You know, I've got a couple of 3-ton jacks and a 8-ton jack, and sorry, a 3-ton car stands. The ratchet kind. I did have some, but they were too light, so I went off and bought some. They're only like $40, so these things could save your life. Always make sure when you jack anything up like this, especially a truck, because it's, you know, this is a couple of tons of metal going to crush you to death. So always make sure you're jacked up correctly. So yeah, the suspension though, when you jack it up, it's eerily easy to get the original bolt back through. So now what I'm up to is pulling out the threaded rod that I used to crush everything in, and I'll put the bolt back in, and this one goes on first. Imagine that bolt there is actually the bolt. Well, it's not, but so that piece of brace here goes on, and it goes between those 2 bolts, so it locks the leaf suspension into the chassis. So this is a rear shackle bush. Job being done, and so I'm just about to pull this one out and put the original bolt back through, do it all up, and my job's done. I just did the other side this morning, and it took me a lot longer for the other side because I hadn't worked out this method yet. So yeah, really easy. Cost me $5 to get the bits I needed, the threaded rod, nuts and bolts and washers, and then it's just a matter of winding it on slowly and adjusting your time, you know, as you go. I also used a fair bit of grease. It's really tight trying to get all this gear inside the metal sleeve that it all has to go in. So a bit of grease on the rubber and a bit of grease on the sleeves that went in as well. They were just basically metal tubes that go through the middle of the shackle bush. And again, I probably should have showed you, but I'll quickly at the end of this video show you what the front looks like and give you an idea of how to do it. So anyway, just a quick tip on fixing shackle bushes on a truck.